Going out to the web. That's okay, because it's more important the folks here hear it. And we're going to start working on our core wiki project. Yeah, there we go. There's some of our friends. Ryan's here, and so is Cryptrix. So it's great to see some of our friends that are all over the world joining us here at Build, in addition to the friends that we have pair programming with us live here in person. And I don't have a way to turn around the camera here and show you, but we've got this really cool display, and we'll take some photos and show you later on stream, that has 6 big screen displays going up each side of a main display that's got this ugly mug in the middle right now. Hi, Mom. All right, let's jump over, let's take a look at some code and start working together to pair program, and let's build something with ASP.NET Core using Visual Studio, using Visual Studio Code, and using our new Visual Studio Live Share functionality all together here on Twitch. All right, I'm going to go over to my code editing view. So this is the core wiki project out on my GitHub collection of repositories, right? So my profile, of course, is C#Fritz on GitHub. You can go out there and you can check it out. I've got a couple of projects that we're working on together here on stream. But this is intended to be a very simple project that's going to teach you some of the basics of using ASP.NET Core and kind of provide a little bit of the basis for some other future shows that we're going to do showing other cool technologies that you can use to build websites. So this core wiki, it's a simple ASP.NET Core project that just gets and fetches and runs data from a database as wiki pages that we present and share with folks that want to visit. So you can check it out and go download the code here. You can submit some pull requests. We've got some folks that have already been participating, sending over some pull requests, opening some issues with feature suggestions, and helping to collaborate, helping to kind of drive how this project is going to evolve. Now we've got a couple of features here that I want to talk about and work together with my friends here at Build. I've got 2 features that I want to address today. And one is called article estimated read time, and another one is a view read count. So if we look at the view read count, this is very simply, we want to create a little statistic that we can show that shows the number of views or reads of an article inside of our wiki project. Seems simple enough. We can extend our article object in the database and add this extra field, and then start working on presenting that on screen. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this issue. I've already got it listed here as a scheduled status. It's an enhancement, and I think it's a good first issue for us to work on together here. So let's go over to Visual Studio. And here I am in Visual Studio, and you can see the little tape flags where some of my friends here in person are joining us. And you can see there's Jeremy here in purple, and there's James over here, and Jonathan Carter is up top there, and we're gonna work together on this. There's JC, of course, on line 5 with a fun comment. Hello, thanks for chiming in and modifying my code for me. I can actually kick people out of my session. You see there's a little remove button here. So if he starts to get a little ornery, we can remove Jonathan from our session here. So, oh, here we go. Keying in a little bit. James Cook, of course, that's JR. Hi, Mom. Yeah, so you're internet famous now. So let's take a look at a couple of other things about LiveShare that kind of light up for us when we add this extension into either Visual Studio 2017 or into Visual Studio Code. Of course, in Visual Studio 2017, you get a much fuller experience, right? Much more complete experience because it's a real IDE, right? It's got all these other features that we light up. So we've got the ability to do some things with graphics and interaction, and I can actually show up here in the corner next to my sharing button where I started this session. I can see here's the initials of the folks that have joined my session. And if they had avatars hooked up to their Microsoft accounts that they were using to connect in here, I would see their avatars just like you see my little ugly mug here in the corner next to my name. So that's kind of cool, and this is in public preview now, right? So all the folks that are out there, we got about 30 folks, 35 folks watching us out on Twitch. All of you can go out to that aka.ms/VSLS. You see that URL up here right above my mouse. If you go to that address, you can get all the information about installing and running Visual Studio LiveShare so you can host your own pair programming code sharing sessions with your colleagues, with your buddies, with your open source teammates, and you can work together in Visual Studio Code or in Visual Studio 2017 on whatever your project might be. So I've got my group of 3 friends here that are tuned in and joining us. So the first thing that I wanted to do, thinking about this project that we're looking at, and we can look at adding this views count, right? We want to look at the number of views for an article. And let's take a look over here. I can say okay to this bar here. Let's make that disappear. I want to add that number of views to my articles. So my articles are a model inside of my project. And in C# and ASP.NET parlance, I have this model object that's being mapped to a database table, and it's got a couple of properties to it. And we've done some work with this in the past. We created this published date time property, and then the published property when we were online with our friend John Skeet about a month ago, and we built some things around there to be able to manage time zones a little bit better with Entity Framework and with .NET. So I'm going to now add this number of views to my database, to my object here. So inside this class, I'm just going to add another property, and I can do that with the prop snippet, and I'll get an int here, and we'll define this as a property named, let's just call it view count. Now, I've added a property. I need to also get that property into my database. Now, the way to typically add properties to a database, after you've defined them here and you want to have that column in the database, you'll run to your favorite database administrator, you'll talk to them and say, hey, I need to modify table structure, and they complain at you because you're changing table structure on them, because that's what database administrators do. And I love my database administrators, they're great folks. What we can do is we can create a migration script, and that migration script using Entity Framework Core will allow us to pass over to my database administrator just the SQL that I need to run my database, to update my database, because I need to have both my class and my database table in sync. So how do I generate that migration? Well, what I can do is I can actually work inside a terminal and update and add that feature, add that migration feature here into my project. Now I'm gonna shout out to JC here. How do I share my terminal over LiveShare? Because that's one of the new features we're touting here. How do I do that?
Go up to the sharing menu and say share.
So if I go up to the sharing menu, share terminal, read only. So I'm going to share it read only. So my friends here can see it and they can interact with it. And that font is really small for our friends on Twitch. So I know the folks out there, you want to be able to see what I'm typing. So let's make this a little bigger. Fantastic. And it's already PowerShell. It's got my posh Git settings loaded so that it shows me a little bit of information about Git there. I'm just going to take a quick look at what's going on here in the chat room. Some of our friends that I've seen earlier today. Sushinator is here on the road today, it seems. Yes. Gabrielle asks, how many people can join LiveShare concurrently? I believe currently 5 people can join a session. So you have a host, and then you can have 5 guests. So there's what you can do, Gabrielle. Gabriel? Let's say Gabriel. Let me know if I'm wrong on that. I love LiveShare. Oh, that's great. Glad you like LiveShare, Chewy. Let's see I mean LiveShare within VS or VS Code. Yes, it doesn't matter which one you're using. The total for your session is 5 guests with 1 host. What are we programming? Asks Next Gen Modder. We're going to be working on this ASP.NET Core project, building it's a simple wiki that you can use to deploy and host a couple of articles out there on the web. But I want to add this new feature, this new property, this view count that I've got defined here. So if I look, I'm in my solution level folder, so I need to get down into the core wiki folder here. Let's clear this. And there we are. So I can now say, now I've done it. Now I've done it. Hang on, let me reshare that terminal. So when I share my terminal read-write, the other folks that are connected and using LiveShare with me can see what's going on, and they get a terminal popped up also. And you can actually see, if you're here in person, on their screens, they've got a terminal open and they can watch what I'm typing. So I'm going to say .NET EF migrations add, and I'm going to specify the name of my new migration, and let's call this article view count. Oh, it doesn't know what .NET EF is. It's missing. How does it not know that? How does it not know what .NET EF is? Do I not have that tool installed? Let's take a look-see. So I'm running .NET Core 2.0, and with .NET Core 2.0, I actually have to add a tool reference, and you can see it down here, Microsoft Entity Framework Core, tools.net, and that should give me that same feature. That should give me the EF feature here. So let me go back to my terminal. Let me try running a .NET restore and see if there's something that I'm missing here that we can get lit up quickly. Let's see, how does debugging work in LiveShare? Magnus asks. Well, Magnus, when I start debugging here as a host, and for security reasons, only the host can kick off the debugging session. But when I kick it off, all my guests that are connected can see and interact with the debugger as well. And because I'm in ASP.NET Core, they get a version of the browser popped up for them as well. So that's pretty cool. Thanks a lot, Brendan. I appreciate you hosting the stream there. We got about 60 people tuned in now. Guest debuggers are attached to the host machine and the single running app. Yep. Let's see. You can go to next line as guest. Well, I don't think you can advance the debugger as a guest, can you? So the guests can take control of the debugger once it's running and they're connected. All right. So the authority is telling me here, you can do that. Let's try that .NET EF statement again and see. I'm not getting it from this command window. Let me see if I get it over here. We may have found an issue. Don't tell anybody. It's over here. So I'm going to create this. Let's say add article view count. So like I said, this is in public preview. It looks like we may have found something that we need to work on with the feature. But you can see here, executing that migrations add command, it looked at the database that I'm using, it built out and updated my, my table appropriately, and I'm able to continue working with the project. And if I look over here, you can also see this migration class that adds a view count column. Try changing the project folder. No, I'm okay. We're good there. Thank you, Milk Planet.
Was it the shared terminal was PowerShell? The other one was command line?
Right. So the question is, the shared terminal is PowerShell versus the normal command shell, I'm actually able to run my .NET EF command from both locations. Right, so let me do .NET EF from over here, and I can still connect in and use it. So, you know what, we'll check it out later. Fortunately, we have some of the team here. We can inspect and figure out what's good with that. All right. So there's my CS project file. I'm sure that works properly. I now have a view count field inside of my database, and I should really default this to 0, right? Because when you first create an article, there's 0 views. I'm going to start debugging the project now. And because I'm sharing, by default, I share the server from an ASP.NET Core application. This is actually going to light up on everybody's machine as the debugger starts running. And for those folks who are here watching, you'll see on 4 of these screens, for the folks that are connected, their browsers are going to open, and they're all going to get connected to my machine through the power of the internet coming down, and we'll all see the same thing running here in our browsers. Let's see here. In the PowerShell, you need to go down into CoreWiki. I was in there. Try changing into the project folder. I thought I was there. No such column. We just created that. Oh wait. Haha. I didn't apply the migration. Right? So let me go down into CoreWiki, see if I'm here and I .NET EF. Oh, that's working now. All right, maybe I was in the wrong project folder. Look at that. SMAB, I think, got it right. There in the chat room. All right. That's why it's pair programming on Twitch, because folks out there will find stuff. I need to actually apply that migration. So what I can do to apply and update my database is I can see .NET EF database update. And it will actually update and apply that, that alter column command to my database. And it's going to find it and it's going to run. Build failed. Build failed? Give me some details here. Because it's running right now. That's why. All right, I have to stop the debugger. We can go back over here. Now let's try that .NET EF database update. And now that I'm not locked on that DLL that I'm sharing and running, now my database is updated. And now I can rerun the application and see what it looks like. And come on, let's see how it works. You're right, Mranio, I forgot the database update. All right, so now I have the home page running here. You can see it on my screen here at the live share booth. You can see it in the middle, but you can see all of our friends have the exact same browser loaded, and they're all at the home page here at build. Now, why don't we do this? Since everybody has a copy of the browser and they can navigate around, how about we all create a new article so that we have a little bit more content there? You know, give it whatever topic name you want. You know, this is a family-friendly broadcast, so let's, you know, keep it clean. You know, right? So I'm going to call mine Fly Eagles Fly, because my Philadelphia Eagles, they're a pretty good football team. Philadelphia Eagles for the win. All right? So that's all I'm going to create for mine, so I have an article out there. If I click latest changes, I can see some of these other pages here that folks have created. Looks like John created one. Oh, look at that. What? That's just me, no sponsorship, not even buy any soda pop. What? UK says, I see you're doing connections with your databases. How are you doing it? I mean, what knowledge do you need to have in SQL and other domains? And which are these domains? So UK's, what you've seen here is that I'm using Entity Framework Core. I created a couple classes. I've pointed to a database location. In this case, it's a SQLite database on disk. And you can see that here inside my project. Right here is my little SQLite database. And .NET, using the Entity Framework library, is able to set up and do all the connections fetching and loading all the features that I need for those tables, for those objects, and populate not just our database when I write stuff down into it, but also pull it out and paint it on screen. So if you want to see more about that, you can check out the source code. That's at GitHub, C#Fritz, Core Wiki. And we've also got an 8-hour workshop you can tune into on YouTube if you want to learn a little bit more about that. All right. Let's see. Customers who like Fritz channel also like the Dev Chatter channel. Okay, cool. Let's take a look next. Now that I've added this field, this view count, I'm actually going to put it on the screen for everybody here. So let's go over to our pages. And I'm going to go down into the details of the page. So this is a Razor page. This is using the Razor templating model. And we want to put the details of exactly what's on the page here throughout, the HTML that we're going to output. And we have some very simple HTML that we're outputting right now. We output the markdown using this tag here. Now, some of you who haven't seen ASP.NET might be looking at that and saying, Jeff, that's a markdown tag. There's no markdown HTML tag, and this doesn't look like Angular where you might have a directive or something like that. So this is actually a server-side feature called tag helpers. And that tag helper will execute on the server, take in our article content, and render that markdown as HTML for us. So a pretty cool little feature that we can use to do some server-side work with HTML and rendering content. So we need to figure out where we want to put this number of views. And I always feel like the number of views of an article, it's either going to be up here in the header next to that last published, or it's going to be down in the footer. So, hey, Jeremy over there, Jeremy Sinclair, you can see him in the purple up here. He's got the JS logo up here. Do you want to put in, underneath that H5, maybe at line 10, do you want to put another HTML entry in there that outputs the model article, I think it was view count was the name of that field. So Jeremy's sitting here with us and he's hooked up with LiveShare and he's going to actually write that little bit of code for us inside this Razor page. It's been a while since he's been typing. He's been here at the conference. Now, as he's writing this, everybody's able to see it, right? All the other guests that are here connected, you can see on all of their screens, if you're here at Build with us, that everybody sees Jeremy's modification he's making. And in the center, where everybody's watching my screen and the folks on Twitch, what you're seeing is the same update coming through. Looks good. So you've got view count, and then we've got a span with that. Data value, okay. So you're using a data value attribute there to kind of stash it away. I'm not sure we need a data value attribute. You know what? Let's see what it looks like. So go ahead and save your changes, Jeremy. So he can save and update my machine's content from where he is connected in, and then we can all go back over to our page, and we can click into one of these, and we should now see a view count. And of course, view count now is 0. Jeff, looks like you are demonstrating my pull request. Oh no, Summer created a pull request for us that does this. All right, that's fine. We'll work that out. So I now just have a view count that's sitting there on the page. It's being painted appropriately for me, and I can also go over to my latest changes and click through. Kansas City Royals. Oh, look at this. Already bragging about the Royals in 2015. Okay, and my Phillies were 2008 World Series champions. Okay, we can deal with this. So now we need a way to increment that view count, right? So we've already done a little bit here to fetch it from the database. We didn't have to add anything to it. But let's go and start actually incrementing that view count here as people come through and view these pages. So let's go back over to Visual Studio, and when somebody clicks through to actually view the details of the page, they're on this Razor view. So JR, James Cook up there, I see him in green here on my screen. Do you want to go down into the details, CSHTML, the the CS file here, this is the page model. And when that onGet happens, right in here, we need to write a little bit of code to update that view count. So now you can work in here, right, about maybe line 29, you know, maybe down on line 31 after we fetch the article to increment that view count and save it back to the database. What do you think? Now, here's the thing. I can actually see where he is if I click the JC button up here that happens to be in Kansas City Royal blue on my screen. And that's Jonathan Carter. I'm over here for this JC is James Cook, and I can see where he is. So he's over here in the edit page. No, man, let's go into the details CSHTML. Right, let's go over here. And let's update the article down around this part of the page. Let's see, is it a Firefox browser? I believe I am using Firefox on this machine. I have different browsers I use on different machines. Looks like Edge, probably Firefox, and then we see some folks with our emotes. Let's see, only list I'm on is a blacklist. What? Put it before line 36 is what Summer is suggesting. So after we decide to return the page, right, after, you know, if we don't find an article where we're going to return a not found, but before the page is returned, right in here I think is where we can start working and adding this. Now check this out. JC wants me to follow him. Jonathan Carter requests me to follow him. So I can click the follow button here and we can see what he wants to share. And we can see that he is over here pointing out the edit page, right? So we have an edit link at the top of our details page. So that's handy, something that we can work with. But you can see, right, when you look up here, I've got a little ring around Jonathan's initials here to indicate that I'm following him, right? I'm in kind of passive mode, right? Effectively watching what's going on, and I can see everywhere that he tabs around and looks at our project. So, you're having problems up there? Okay. So, do you want to take a look? Do you want to do it, Jeremy? All right. So, I'm going to jump over to Jeremy, and we'll start following him. So, I think we're going to make the change in, right, we're saying, Summer over here is saying on line 36 inside of the details CSHTML CS, we're going to go and update that change. Is it following? So I can see on the screen up here that Jeremy's working, but I'm not seeing the change coming through on my machine. So VSLS, still short for no Intellisense for you? No, it's not. We've got that working. Please correct the div on details line 20. The indentation is wrong. Let's see. Oh, over here. Sure, we'll fix that. There we go. Is it not loading and connecting? All right. How about adding files to a project as a guest? I know there have been some issues in previous versions. Jonathan, we can now add files as guests, right? So guests now can contribute. So that's a feature that they've added here. They can work on this. All right, so we got folks disconnecting and reconnecting to the session. Jeff, I would really like to have a view around from your booth. Not sure if you did it before. I did not pan the camera around here. Let's take a look-see here if I can show what's going on. So here, right, you can see there's our friends that are coding with us. And then here's what the booth looks like. You can see I've got a bunch of screens down each side. And then in the middle is where I'm working on the big screen. So there you go. All right. Let's close and reopen it. Sure. So I've closed those, and let's reopen. Here we are in details model. Oh, you're welcome out there to our viewers on Twitch. UK's, any books, Udemy courses from which I can improve my C# skills? There's a number of courses on Microsoft Virtual Academy that you can check out. We're going to be doing another Twitch stream next Friday the 18th. We're going to do another 8-hour workshop with C# content all day long. We'll have our guest that we had this morning, Mads Torgerson, join us, and we'll talk about C# with him. We've got a couple of our other MVPs and friends in the community that'll be joining us throughout the day to teach all kinds of C# features. So if you like the ASP.NET workshop that we did previously, we've got another one coming in about 10 days. So, how we doing? We connected over there?
It's not updating on your end.
But you guys are seeing it.
Yeah. So like, can you try typing something on like 35?
So let me come back in. I'm locked. I can't type anything.
Oh, it's because you're debugging.
So let's stop debugging.
Okay. Now it's working.
How we doing? Is that better? You see the lines, but it hasn't come through with the comment yet. Let's close it one more time. How we doing? Is it me? Should I reshare the project?
Yeah.
All right, I will stop the sharing and reshare. So this is still public preview. We are still working on it. All right, so I have an invite link copied to the clipboard. I am going to, I have an AKA MS link out here that I'm using. And I'm going to just cut over to just me here while I update this link for folks. There we go. All right. So now let's go back to our code. Hey, Summer, thank you for the cheer. That's great. Thank you very much. Of course, for those of you who aren't familiar with the stream, I will match that cheer and we'll make a donation to Girl Development on behalf of everybody in our community here. Thank you so much for that. All right, so we have a new invite link out there. Folks can try and reconnect to me. And we'll try this one more time to demonstrate folks connecting in. There's Jonathan. There we go. Now he's in our file. mva.microsoft.com have great material there. Yes. If you want to finish a bigger thing with certification and Microsoft, you need to stay on track. They change it every couple of releases. We did. A while ago, that was a thing. It's but for the most part, if you're just trying to learn C#, you want to become a better Visual Studio user, there's great stuff on Microsoft Virtual Academy. LinkedIn Learning has some great courses. Of course, we're here on Twitch. And our friends over at Channel 9 have content they push out to YouTube that you can check out. How are we doing? There we go. Now I can see our friends writing some code there on line 36. There we go. Article view count. Equals article view count plus 1, right? Oh, you want to do the plus plus. All right, that works. And we got to save that, right? We got to save that back. So we've got to make sure we do a context.saveChanges, right? Context is our connection object to the database that's managing that translation between our C# objects and the database. And that context has a method hanging off of it called saveChanges. Yeah, context is an underscore to start. There you go. And that's JR writing code now. Fantastic. Save those changes. Oh, look at this. And we're going to do it async. Fancy. Make sure we await that. Looks good to me. Going to clean up our comments. Thank you. This is mob programming to the extreme, right? This is folks really collaborating together and writing some code at the same time. So now let's start up the project and let's see what that view count looks like. Well, actually, you know what? Why don't we go over to our latest changes page? Let's put the view count in here too. What do you think? We can add it as another item here after our H6. Do you want to add that, Jonathan? Just another line below 23 that instead of outputting item.published, outputs view count. Magnus asks, is Intellisense something that LiveShare plans to support? Magnus, not only does LiveShare support Intellisense, but there's now a new feature that you may have seen us talk about as part of the keynotes. It was briefly mentioned, but our friend Amanda Silver did an interview this morning about it called, I believe it's IntelliCode is what it's called, because we changed the code name a couple times. But I think the final name here is IntelliCode. And what IntelliCode does is it'll give you hints as to the best features that you might want to use around an object in Intellisense. And IntelliCode even works down into Visual Studio Code from somebody who's hosting a Visual Studio project. Yeah, that looks good. So Jonathan added line 24 there, and we're going to output that view count. View count service, please, and add that F5 does not count. What? Help me out here, so serious now. What are you referring to? I am happy IntelliCount is not communicating with the cloud. Will that change? I don't know. That's a great question. You know what? Let me find out an answer to that, and we'll get back to you about that one, Sushinator. I don't think it plans to. Got to add some AI model prediction in that IntelliCode. That's a neat idea. Let's start the project here and see what our changes look like now. So I'll just kick off CoreWiki up top here, and this will start up. Now, one thing that I have seen some people ask about is, even though we're pair programming here, we have Jeremy and JR and Jonathan all joining us together on this, it all goes back to one GitHub repository that's running locally on my disk. So when the commit happens, it's actually going to come from my Git ID. So that's just something to be aware of as we go through here. Now you can see our homepage now has a view count of 1. If I refresh here, it's going up because all my friends here have their own versions of the browser. They're able to connect and see the exact same thing as I am, and they can explore around and test, right? Almost like gang testing the application together with us here using LiveShare. Now if I go over to my latest changes, I'm getting invalid date here. What did you put in there, Jonathan? Let's go back over here. So you know what? I think this class timestamp value is causing Moment.js to do a reformat. See it right here? So I'm just going to yank that class, save that, and let's refresh the page. See what it looks like. There we go. So now I have my view count popping up there. Losing your luggage while trying to find an Uber. Has 9 views. Wow. All right. Kansas City Royals still has 0. Still. Let's do this. Let's put a label in there in front of that view count. Let's let's put right in here maybe, right? View count. And I can refresh. And because Razor pages are interpreted on the fly, right? I don't need to recompile with that. I can make changes over there and refresh my page. So when I'm debugging and working with a group like this, they're all able to continue working and navigating around, and they don't have to wait for me to do a rebuild. So that's a pretty cool thing. You know, they can continue testing and experimenting and working around in the project, and we can continue writing code together. Or they might identify something and on their guest machines, go do an update, submit it, and we can see those changes. Because they're compiled on the fly, as Brendan's pointing out. Yep. Make a service function which observes this. Tell me more about that, So Serious. When you refresh the page with F5 in the browser 10 times, the counter should only go up 1 for you. Now there's an interesting piece of business logic. So how do we detect that and prevent somebody from gaming this, right? From going onto the Kansas City Royals page and hitting refresh 10 times, or 94 times, as it might be. Thanks over there. Okay, I see how this works. So what do you think? So I'm seeing this suggestion from Summer, from So Serious. The data value is unneeded. Good point. We don't need the data value here for the view count. So let's get rid of that one. So what do you guys think? How should we build something that prevents somebody from stacking the count like JR did over there, just hammering F5 a couple times so you can push up and make the Kansas City Royals the most popular article in our wiki? I tell you. Somebody is out viewing your page. Yeah, I know. Let's see. Now I think we need to use the user session, who is that? Philippe is asking. We need to use the user session to kind of prevent someone from gaming this and loading that up a number of times. I can see a couple different ways that we could do this. Eventually we may end up output caching these pages, which is going to stop the ability to refresh and get that information. And in fact, it will only ever count a view once when the cache is built. So that's a problem. Brendan's suggesting we could give him a cookie and let the cookie monster have the cookie, and if they have the cookie because they just viewed the page, we can prevent adding another view to the page. That's not a bad idea, but we're going to run into GDPR with that. We can tell the browser to cache the HTML is what Brendan is saying. Why even show a view count is what Brave Cobra is asking. We're trying to give some sort of sense as to what the popular articles are here inside of our wiki. So cache will create a problem here when we start to introduce cache. But for the lowest impact, the easiest way for us to add this feature to prevent somebody from gaming the system, I think we can do a cookie quickly and easily. What do you think, guys? Should we add a cookie? All right, I'm getting nods from the crew here. So I think the way we want to add a cookie is somewhere over here inside of my details page. I want to add the cookie after we do the view count, where I want to check for the presence of the cookie, and if it isn't there, increment the view count and then add the cookie. So let me stop debugging. I'll start writing this code here. So let's say now I have to reach into request, right? I can say request. So in ASP.NET, request is all the information about what folks have actually tapped into our application and sent when the HTTP request came in. And these items that are marked with a star, these are the most common things that folks use according to IntelliCode. So I actually want to look at cookies. So if request.cookies, and then I can request one here, and we need to look for a cookie with the name of the article that we're presenting. So let's go after the article dot topic, right? If that does not equal null, Then let's increment the view count, and then let's also send back response.cookies.add, append, and then we'll make it the article topic. I don't really need a value to it, foo, because I'm just checking if it exists. And then I want to specify some additional information about it, like when it expires. So let's take a look at the cookie options here. No, that's not it. Let's see. What other options here? New cookie options. I should be able to specify, if I remember correctly. There it is, expires. So let's say date time dot UTC now dot add minutes. Now that's going to give me a date time, and I want to expires is actually a date time offset. I don't want to add months. Add minutes. There we go. So let's give you 5 minutes before we count another view on this page. And I want that as a date time offset. So how do we get a date time offset on this? It is, I'm blanking. It's not to universal time. What's the date time offset on that? Oh, maybe it'll just let me do that. All right. So I now have the cookie going out. We'll append and we'll stop that count from incrementing too many times right away here on the page. What do we have here? Let's see a couple comments in the chat room. I think for GDPR, it would apply the same way. I'm not collecting personal information, so I might actually be able to get away from GDPR here, get away with this, because I'm just incrementing a number. I don't have any personal information I'm logging. I'm going to need a privacy policy at some point on this page. Would it be cool to make some sort of session information with Blazor syntax? Magnus, you're too far ahead. We're not going to look at Blazor just yet. Let's see. What about JWT, which is stored in a cache of a SPA? That's a cool idea, Thrundy, but I'm not doing anything SPA yet. So it's, once again, a little bit further than I want to go. Could it be a problem that the user can delete the cookie from the browser, leading to generate more post views? You're right. Philippe is right there. Showing a view count seems unneeded and old school. Save the info, sure. Use it to sort, sure. Show the actual value, meh. Brave Cobra is saying. That's fine. I can buy that as well. Let's make sure this works. So we'll start that back up. Now everybody's browser is going to fire up and they'll be connecting over to my shared server. But I understand what you're saying, Brave Cobra, in our chat room. There's definitely something here that, you know, it's not something that folks really need to see. So now my home page says view count 40, and if I hit the refresh here, it's not going up. So it's properly stopping from going and incrementing that view count here. So I think we've at least got that fixed. That stopped for right now. Is that Moose asks, what's the project now? Creating a wiki using some shared editor sessions. Yes. So we have a bunch of folks joining us here at Build, working together and creating some of the features here inside of this little wiki project using ASP.NET Core. And this is my log window for the web browser, and you can see as some of the folks here, the pair programmers, as they're clicking around, you can see on the screens here if you're watching in person, you can see in the middle, my log is updating and passing through, showing all of their activity on the page. And I think somebody's trying to pad his numbers here. But you're not getting it. You're not getting more counts here. We're still locked at 94 on the Royals there. All right? We still have 0 for Jeff. That makes me feel bad. Now, actually, we may have found another problem because it's not actually giving me that first count on the page. I'm not doing that. Let's take a look at our local storage here because we should see the cookies. So I have AI user WP settings. That's, neither of those are me. Those are tooling features that are coming back. But refreshing this page, I'm not seeing the cookie being set, nor am I seeing that increment happening. Let's go back to our code here. I have a feeling that's always not equaling null. You know what? Can I do a break here, guys, and let's see what this looks like? Can somebody refresh the page? There we go. So request.cookies article.topic, losing your luggage while trying to find an Uber. So let's see what that cookie is from this person's machine. I'm going to add a watch for that. So I'm using Visual Studio Watches, and it's coming back as the value null. So that should... I have my Boolean logic backwards. Oh. This should be equals null. All right, let's stop, let's restart, and we'll see what this looks like now. So we should at least get that first count. Amranio asks, Jeff, would you consider Node.js in the future? Sure, I absolutely would. And why? JavaScript is in a lot of different places. Node does a nice job of making JavaScript work on the server. Node works great on Azure, works great on a bunch of different server-side places. I would take a look at it. I would use it a little bit. It's not, right now, my favorite. Look at this. Cubs greater than Royals. Oh, there's something going on here. Look at this. So I click through, and I've got the first view here. And as I'm refreshing, some other folks are clicking through and seeing this article, and my view count is going up slowly for that. But Node.js, to answer the question, I would certainly take a look at it in the future. A lot of folks talk highly about it, but you're going to see on the future set of benchmarks that are released by our friends at Tech Empower that ASP.NET Core is much, much faster than Node.js. And I'm very comfortable with ASP.NET Core, with .NET, with C#. So I'm going to continue to use those features. But if you're a JavaScript developer, go for it. Use Node.js. I need to spend some time learning it because I like to consider myself somebody who knows a little bit more than one programming language. So I want to get familiar with other things that are out there. Cookie per article. Yeah, so serious. You know, we might be able to trim that down and make it easier. Sushinator, there used to be an option in web forms to disable cookies and have a query string parameter. That would be useful right now. You're right. Have to go. All right, thanks for joining us, Philippe. Do those benchmarks also take Spectre Meltdown into consideration? Everybody's impacted similarly, Thrundi, so I believe they do. Our friend Scott Hunter was wandering around here just a minute ago, and I could have asked him if he was still here, but he's not, so we can't. All right. Maybe if C# finished with his main agenda, he could say a few words about his impression of Blazor and what is the feedback from the community from his point of view. So I think Blazor is a WebAssembly technology where you can compile .NET code into WebAssembly so it runs in the browser just like JavaScript. So you can write C# code that runs client-side. And because of Spectre and Meltdown, everybody got a new version of the browser, and because WebAssembly is a standard, all the browsers support it. So there's a real opportunity here for us to do some neat things with Blazor in the browser. And Blazor's built on .NET Standard technologies. It's all open source. You can find the source code out there on GitHub. Actually, if you go to, for those of you who might be interested, github.com/ASP.NET/Blazor. Here's where all the source code is for that framework. So for those of you asking questions about that, here's where you can find it. You can download all the tools for it. All the features are defined and pretty well documented here for you if you'd like to check it out. I think this has got a bright future as long as the browser vendors continue to support WebAssembly the way they are. It's an experimental project right now, but the .NET team is very interested in seeing this succeed, and in order for them to make it succeed, they need your customer feedback. So folks that are here at Build, folks that are watching here on Twitch, let them know. Let them know what you think. Let them know that you're interested in Blazor. Reach out on Twitter, on Facebook. Here, there's some issues. Let them know that you're interested. Star this repository and let them know that you want to see Blazor succeed. All right? So there's my quickie about Blazor. Yes? So JR is saying on his screen, now how do I go over? I can't see JR's screen from here. I got to wander around and look. So he's seeing the view count 0 when he goes to Cubs Royals. So now I'm refreshing it and I'm seeing view count 0. Hey, look, can we all just agree it's better than Philly? Oh, no. Oh. So let's think this through. When we look at the article coming back here on our edit page, because it looks like there were some edits done, right? There's our edit page. And we look at the code behind. I call it code behind. The page model. Woo. Can you tell I'm a long-time web forms guy? Let's take a look down here. When it's posted back, we set the article state to modified. We reset the publish date, and we save changes async. You know what? I don't think we're getting the view count, and I think we're overwriting the view count with 0 when it's getting posted back. So how can we best get the article and update and maintain that? Is the article still attached to the context when saving? Right now it's not. I think he made a mistake once. Aha, yes. And Brave Cobra is right, it picked up on view count is getting reset upon save. So and you can see here where it's attaching the article and then marking it as modified. So the article that's being received and passed in, so that view count is being dropped on the way in. So I think, just so that I can get that view count and make sure that it stays inside of our article, let's go grab an existing article, right? Equals context, articles, first, and we know there's an article out there with this ID, so it's A, right? This is a predicate that will help me find that article. I'll say A dot, I thought we had an article ID in here. Did we not merge that? I don't think we did. A dot topic equals, and then we're going to go find it based on the article dot topic. So now I've got the existing article. So what I want to do is say the article that was passed in dot view count equals the existing article view count. And that should persist our view count now based on what the previous view count was in the database. So let's save that, refresh. Let's see, that's why I don't like to use view models directly. Get the article fresh from the database and update using the view model. Great idea, yep. So now I've refreshed, here's my page. Oh, look at this, Core Wiki Live Share Edition, thank you. Updating things on the fly behind my back here, look at this. So let's go over to the latest changes. There's our Cubs Royals with a view count of 0. Now it's up to 2. I'll throw something in here. Save. Unhandled exception. Oh no! The instance of entity type article cannot be tracked because another instance with the same key is already being tracked. So check this out. Here's a mistake that I made when I loaded that extra article. This existing article, when it's fetched using this statement, is actually being tracked. Entity Framework is monitoring it and keeping track of changes. But I don't want to change this one. I want to get it for read-only here. So what I can do, I believe I can fetch, I believe it's, where is it? There's a method here to say for read-only. and I'm not there on this one. So this is a DB set, and I can say, here we are, as no tracking, that's what it's called. So as no tracking tells Entity Framework, fetch this item, but don't keep an eye on it for changes. Release all the information that you know about it. So I'll reload this, and I should be able now to edit and add my snarky Philly statement to the Cubs Royals discussion out there in the core wiki. Yep, Kappa. No tracking is what I was missing there. You're right. Failing is learning, and I am still here. Yes, failing is learning. Absolutely. So I'm going to go back into Cubs Royals. Pete Rose. Okay, there's a start. There's a old Philly for me. Phillies 2008. All right, save. And now it's saved, and I have a view count that's persisted. It went from 2 to 3, and we're still in great shape. So I think there is a good idea there to use view models to pass some of this data around and make it a little bit more robust and handle things better. But I'm missing some of my features from some of our other pull requests. So we're going to want to make that merge in the future here. We're at about 2:30. We've got about a half hour left. So let's take a look. There's one more feature that I wanted to look at here. Now that I think we've got the view count pretty well ironed out, I can look at the complete list of articles here, and this works and looks good. Before I go too much further, let me put this into its own GitHub branch here for the live share project that we're working on. So I'm going to do a quick git checkout, and I will call this feature VSLS, and I will check in these items. I'll commit them, right? Updated with our friends at the VSLS booth. All right, I forgot to add those other features. There we go. I will amend. Excuse me. Yep, looks good. Cool. So now I've got those features saved and in a source control repository that I can work with. So Sirius asks, do you have MongoDB experience? Yes, I do. And it's not something that we're using here just yet. In the future, I think there's an opportunity for us to enhance this project. Instead of using SQLite, using MongoDB or Cosmos DB with Azure. I think those are great database stores that'd be neat to show here. I know our friends who work on Couchbase, that database service, they've expressed an interest in showing how that works as well. So there's definitely opportunities to show different repositories working together with this. So the other feature that I wanted to take a look at, excuse me, is over here. Yep, so here's Summer talking about the feature. And we'll take a look later and merge this together. But the other issue I wanted to make sure we looked at was this one. Article estimated read time. Might be nice to have an estimated read time for articles in the wiki. Now, this feels like it lines up perfectly with something that with what we just did here. And M. Zuber, right? I think this is our friend. Is that Mordecai out there? One of our viewers that joins us on a regular basis, found this definition that Medium uses. Read time is based on the average reading speed of an adult, roughly 275 words per minute. We take the total word count of a post, translate it into minutes, with an adjustment made for images. With an adjustment for differing opinions for what the actual average reading speed is, the formula is this in this format. I like what Countable does. Countable takes paragraphs, words, characters. Okay. So how can we count the number of words in our articles? Well, I think we can just look through. Our markdown and find, where the spaces are and count the number of entries between spaces. and that's the number of words, roughly. And then divide that by 275, and that'll give us the number of minutes. What do you think? Does that sound like a decent approach? I'm looking at my team here. All right. So 275 is our magic number. So I'm going to stop debugging so we can start working on the code again. Where do we want to put the reading time? Does the reading time go on just the details page, or does it also go on that latest changes in all pages? Any thoughts? Just on the details? Okay. All right. So if we go over to just the details page, and I think this is something that we're okay to do right here on the page. I'm going to take advantage of a feature inside of Razor templates. I'll start writing a function block. We can do that by calling out functions. So here we can actually define a method using C# that lives only right here on the page. And I believe the syntax for that is as easy as the same as I would use for any other method. So let's call this calculate read time, and let's take in a string for the content. Right? So if we have our words per minute is 275, let's make that a .0 so that we have a decimal there, right? And I'll put the M at the end to force it to be a decimal instead of a double, right? So we get a little bit of precision with that. And now let's look at the content, right? So if we say word count, and we define that as content.split. Hang on, check that out. Content is a string, and I did a dot there. And IntelliCode is telling me that the most common things that people dot into for strings are length, replace, and split. So if I tell it split, and I want to split on spaces, the number of words is going to be the count of that. If I dot into that, I can now go after and get the count. There's also a length there, isn't there? Yeah, let's get length. All right, so now I have the number of entries in that array, and that's roughly the number of words. So I just want to return, right, word count divided by words per minute. And now I have that read time. Decimal feels cheesy, right? We should probably convert that into minutes and seconds. Maybe just minutes is all we really need. So Jonathan, you're right there on 18. Do you want to convert that into minutes? Well, I'm going to convert this to time span. Right? Let's see how good Jonathan's C# is. So if we want to convert that into minutes, so that's right? So that'll give us a minutes as a decimal. If we want to convert that into number of minutes, right? Actually, let's leave this as an int, maybe, right? So we have an integer number of minutes. So what do you guys think? We just do a multiply by, well, that is, all right, hang on. That's going to give us an ugly decimal, and we want to round that up so we get a flat number of minutes. So let's just do a math round. Right? And is that all we need? That will return another decimal. I want an int. So let's convert that. Right? There we go. So now we need to put the number of the view time here on the page. Somebody want to write the view time there down around line 25 or line 26? I'm going to, do you want to write it, Jonathan? I'll take a look and answer a question over here from the chat room. Is it possible to use MVC and Razor pages side by side? So Sirius now asks. Yes. I have a couple of other projects that we're working on here on the stream where we are doing just that. If you take a look in my GitHub repository, there's a project called Stream Tools that shows using MVC with Razor pages, and they're both actually MVC. But Razor Pages is an implementation of MVC that just uses Razor content, and it kind of generates the controllers on the side for you, and you don't have to really work on that. So there we go. In line 26, you can see Jonathan added this entry for estimated reading time with the calculated, and he's calling into my function there that is only defined and used here inside this Razor page. So that makes sense. That was pretty easy to do. Maybe approximate to a higher int. What if it's bigger than 60 or 120 minutes? It'd be nice to say hours or something like that. Let's make sure this works, right? So we've got calculated read time as minutes. Let's make sure this works, and then we'll come back and maybe we'll do some additional formatting there, right? So should I start debugging? Get into this? All right. So take a look and see what it says now for some of our pages, like that wonderful Kansas City Royals page. I'm getting trolled on the Kansas City Royals here. I can't believe it. Estimated reading time, 0. Well, it's going to take at least 1 minute. Right? Let's see if there's some other pages here. Go over to our Cubs Royals page, 0. We're going to have anything that's really, really long? Once upon a time, a first-time traveler to Seattle from West Virginia happened to misplace his luggage while trying to find an Uber. Luckily, he had information in his luggage that could identify him, and now he's happy. Nice. Nice. Always leave identification in your luggage. I actually have luggage tags that have my name on them and the phone number, but that works. So this feels like it needs to be up, so it's at least 1. And fortunately, because this is inside the Razor page, I think we can take that calculated read time and where it's being output here. Let's just bump this up 1. Oh, you want to debug into there? Who said that? JR said that? Sure. Let's debug into this and see what it does. So if we refresh, if somebody refreshes that page, so we hit that calculated read time again. There we go. So now we can step in, and our pair programmers here at build can step into that. They can hit the next step and step through this and see what's going on. So there it's calculating the word count. And what's the word count? I can mouse over this, and I should be able to see what the word count value is. And I'm only seeing those definitions. Let me add a watch. So I'm getting 20. So 20 divided by it's too small. Right? So we do need to add 1 to that count. So we need to... You've already got it copied? Oh, you're adding a bunch of words. All right. So if we refresh on this page? On the Royals one. All right, so let's go back. Am I hitting that breakpoint again? Yeah, I'm going to turn off the breakpoint so that we can keep going. So which one was it, Cubs Royals or just the Kansas City Royals? Also, look at this. So JR added some lorem ipsum text for us so that we could see what's going on here. And we should see, yeah, look at that, estimated reading time 4 minutes. So that looks correct. But I think that's how many words? That's 1,000 words. So thinking out loud, 275 times 4 is a little bit more. We might want to round it up like some of the folks in the chat room are saying. Better add, ceiling might be better than add 1. I like that idea from, hey, it's our friend Mr. Magoo. So what we can do instead of math.round is we can change that to ceiling. So math.ceiling in the .NET framework, the .NET Core framework here, actually rounds up the value. So I'll save that, and let's refresh the page. And it still says 4. That's interesting. Do the other ones say 1 now? That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing from our friends. Yeah, there we go. Now it says 1. So maybe we hit it perfectly. Maybe we hit the post, as it were. Let's see. Live share is awesome, our friend Janescu says there in the chat room. There we go. Thank you, Janescu. We really like live share also. Flashy Flash Flash. What do you think about Java Spring Boot? Or are you going with .NET? I love .NET. I am a big time .NET fan. I've been using it for a long time. You can use Java in Visual Studio Code and then use LiveShare with your Java development if you'd like. We fully support Java. We support all kinds of other languages, JavaScript, .NET, so that's F#, C#, VB, all your favorite languages you can use with LiveShare in Visual Studio Code, even C++ and Go. Work with LiveShare in Visual Studio Code. Yes, Sushinator, I was waiting for my bags at the airport, and then the alarm went off, and they quarantined the airport. Folks weren't allowed to come and go for a while. Do you use any JavaScript framework when working with ASP.NET MVC? Or do you use plain JavaScript and maybe jQuery? If you do, how do you structure your front-end JavaScript code and MVC code? That's from MTC743. So let's take a look over here. I'll show you, I have a little bit of JavaScript code here because we're using Moment.js. So because I'm using ASP.NET Core, I get this very convenient dub root folder where all of my static files like JavaScript libraries live. And I actually copy things like jQuery or Moment.js or even my MDE, my Markdown editor. I copy those into here so they're all sitting in one place and I can reference them and add them into my project as needed. And I've got a couple of add-ons that I've put here into the project like bundle config and package.json to allow me to fetch those libraries and copy them appropriately into my lib folder. There's a lot of really great JavaScript frameworks out there like Angular and Vue and Knockout. Knockout's kind of a throwback, but I gotta do that for my boy Steve Sanderson. And you can use all of those frameworks very nicely with Visual Studio Code, with ASP.NET Core, with ASP.NET MVC. Put them down over here inside this lib folder and reference them appropriately from your HTML you may have living over here, from your Razor pages that live here inside the Pages folder, or even from views that you may use with more Razor templating options. Is using Angular with MVC a good idea? I think it's a great idea. Angular is an amazing tool. The folks at Google have built that and built it up as a great framework. And MVC does some really nice things with being able to build and interactively help you build a good application, build a nice application. So you can kick off and roll over to Angular nicely. We also have something that runs server-side called JavaScript, JavaScript Services. And you can actually run Angular server-side with ASP.NET Core and MVC. You can check that out. I've got some demos on that you can find on Microsoft Virtual Academy. I have a little bit about that actually in my book that I wrote a little bit ago. Lots of things that you can check out. Hype, SignalR, hype. There's lots about SignalR, absolutely. We think SignalR is really great. We just announced a SignalR service here at Build that you can, and that SignalR service runs on Azure. It allows you to scale quickly and easily without having to write a lot of extra code. And I want to bring some of those folks from the SignalR team on the stream, pair program with us using LiveShare, and show some of those features to you in a future stream. I think we're almost at the end of time here. We're running right up to the limit we wanted to do here. You can use React with ASP.NET Core, they're saying. SignalR 4 Core, yes, we're using that inside the Stream Tools project. We'll probably go back to that. We are going back to that on Thursday. My guest on Thursday morning will be Scott Kate. And we're going to do a little bit of work with Cognitive Services and SignalR with our Stream Tools project. But I really wanted to focus on using LiveShare together here with my three friends, Jonathan Carter, Jeremy Sinclair, and J.R. Cook, helping us work together on this project. And really, it's not about the ASP.NET that we're writing here. I wanted you to see and get a feel for how LiveShare makes your Visual Studio development experience pairing with a bunch of friends easy, more productive, and it doesn't matter where you are. We happen to be in the same room here together at the Washington State Convention Center at Build. But we've done this before with folks that are cross-country. I've done it with John Skeet when he was over in the UK. So across the ocean, it doesn't matter where you are on the internet, you can connect and work together on this. And there are options to set up firewalls and things so that you can only connect to folks that are in your organization if you have some concerns there about sending things out across the internet. So you can check that out. There's more details. If you check out that link way up at the top of the screen here, aka.ms/VSLS, there's all kinds of information for you about getting your copy of Visual Studio LiveShare running in Visual Studio Code or in Visual Studio 2017, and it works great in Windows, Mac, and Linux versions of Visual Studio Code. So those folks out there working in Linux, writing those Go applications, set up LiveShare, work together, make friends. It's a good thing. Let's see, just catch up on a few more questions here before we sign off. Do I know Anders Heilsberg in real life? I do. I've met him. It's kind of funny being C# Fritz and talking to the guy who invented C#. Nice guy. I'd love to have him join us for a little bit on stream and talk about C#, but we'll see his availability. Anders is a busy guy. He's doing a lot with TypeScript right now. Any inside info on more announcements? You should see what Jonathan Carter has planned for the next version of Visual Studio LiveShare. It's going to be amazing, and I can't say anything more about it or else he'll shoot me because he's right there, okay? Let's see, what have we got here? Making open source projects with LiveShare. That's a great idea. I love the idea of open source folks working with LiveShare to contribute, work together, right? When you think about how open source folks work together and they're sharing Git commits, right? Or they're sending emails back and forth. There's a time gap there where you're disconnected, right? I can send Jonathan an issue that says, hey, it'd be really great if when I scroll inside of Visual Studio, right, and I'm going to follow him for a second here. If when I scroll, my scroll wheel followed me here, and wouldn't you know, he went and implemented it a little bit later. Very cool, but there was a disconnect. When you use things like LiveShare and you're working on an open source project together, you're both touching the code at the same time. It's not just I'm seeing bits being relayed to me because we're on the same Skype call together and I'm sharing my screen. We're actually touching the project at the same time, and we're writing code together. And he can be over here working in my layout page, and I can be over in the details page, right? And right, Jeremy's working in another page, and JR is working somewhere else, and then we can all debug together, and maybe we are on the same Skype call, and we can be talking and being more collaborative and more effective together. So I'd love to see open source folks working together using Visual Studio Code. If they're on Mac or Linux, that's great. I want to make sure that they have an opportunity to be more productive, right? And that's what we're talking about here. LiveShare is free for everybody. Give it a try. Be more productive. Do that mob programming thing and build code better, faster, and be able to collaborate easier. So I think that's a great thing. Sushinator, I learned you have a session at Build. What happened? You will share a link. I don't have a session at Build. I'm at Build. I'm going to be talking a little bit later. I have a workshop rerun that they've asked me to present, and I'm effectively going to be doing the same thing you see here. And it's an intro to ASP.NET Core 2.1. So we'll be sharing that. We'll be talking to some of the folks in the room there about it. And I've talked to my friend John Galloway, who wrote the session and gave the first presentation of that workshop yesterday. We think it's a nice workshop. We're going to wait about 2 weeks after Build, and I think we're going to rerun it here on stream for everybody who wants to see our ASP.NET Core 2.1 Build workshop. So I think we'll have an announcement about timing for that here in the next few days, and we'll send out the information for everybody to join us. Thumbs up from Sushinator, fantastic. Have I got good people to workshop? I have amazing people for our workshops, okay? So that's always a thing that we're going to do here together. So I think that's about all our time. I'm up against the end of the hour here, the hour or two that they gave us here at Build. So I want to thank Jonathan Carter for inviting me over here to stream here from the LiveShare pavilion. Thanks to our pair programmers. Thank you, JR and Jeremy, for joining in and writing some code together with us here today. Let's commit these changes that our friends made. let's do that real quick. And what did we do in these last couple of changes, right? So let's do a quick look here. Oh, we did the estimated reading time. Sure, so let's do added estimated reading time. Fantastic. And let's push that up to origin. So now if you're checking out, if you're following along on the website, if you look at the GitHub repository, you're going to see the changes that we worked on here together at Build in the feature VSLS branch. All right? So thanks so much, everybody, for joining me. I'll be back on Thursday with our friend Scott Kate. That'll be at 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern, 1400 UTC, and of course 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Thanks everybody in the chat room for joining us. We had about 40-50 people in the chat room watching live. I will, of course, as always, archive this off. We'll send it over to YouTube, and you'll be able to check it out and learn a little bit more about LiveShare from my YouTube channel a little bit later today. All right? Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. I'll catch you next time. See you.